Good morning, everyone. Some of you may recognize me, others may not. So let me tell you who I am. I'm Larry Ballard. I'm on a whole bunch of different shows, but you know what? God's told me I'm supposed to start my own channel. So that's what we're doing. The channel is going to be called Liberty Crusade. And when we pop this up, you'll be able to, there it is. That's where you go if you want to watch me in the future. So I thought what we should do is kind of do a quick introduction for those of you who don't know me. So I'm going to tell you who I am and how I happen to be doing this podcast. And I'm going to invite you to subscribe and come watch me. We're going to post several shows today on both Rumble and YouTube, so you can kind of get a taste for what we're doing. And I'm picking things that are pretty much important that are happening right now. There's a lot of stuff going on. So as I said, I'm Larry Ballard. I'm going to take you back to 1968, and I'm in college, and I take a ride on my motorcycle in the Ozark Mountains, and whoa, I go around a curve, and they lay gravel down, and I go straight, and the road goes right, and I go over a cliff. My motorcycle arcs into the air, and when I woke up 4 hours later, it was still spinning in the tree, and I had hit a tree just before a cliff that would have dropped me 300 feet down. So I'm laying on the ground unconscious. I feel my body jerk, and I'm basically now talking to God for the next 4 hours. And he laid out my entire future. And basically, that's what my platform is about the assignment that God gave me when I was a freshman in college. It was 56 years ago. So here's what happened. I'm laying there and I'm looking at a bank of fog. I don't see anything except a silhouette. I can't make it out as any individual. I'm not saying it was Jesus. I'm just seeing this silhouette, and I'm getting a communication that's nonverbal. And the Lord says, I guess it was the Lord, says basically, I have chosen you for a time such as this. I am going to prepare you for your entire life. You won't come out until the absolute last minute, when the world is on the brink of collapse. We're on the brink of war. We're on the brink of financial collapse. And that is the only time that people are going to be truly pointed and willing to listen to the message that I have to give you. So let me give you a little bit of indication as to what he told me to do to prepare. I wasn't a Christian. He said, go home and read the Bible. So I went home and I read the Bible cover to cover. He said, now you got to know the enemy. Read the Quran cover to cover. So I read the Quran cover to cover. And then he said, there are things you're going to need to know that you have no knowledge of right now. I want you to read them. I want you to study. And at the appointed time, I'll bring that information back to you. So I went on. I mean, this is a long time now. I read anthropology, geology, sociology, psychology, and reams of the most important thing, history. And what is history? Well, it starts with the Bible. 70% of the Bible's history. That's why I had to study the Bible, because he had me base my platform on history. So I got the biblical history, then I got to the normal history of the United States and of the world, and then I layered that in with all of whatever the current things are that are happening in our world today. And that's the basis of my foundation. And he had me do that because he said, when you come out, they'll call you conspiracy theorist unless you can nail down what you say in some concrete fashion. So by using the Bible as history, by using history, we're now tapping into things that have happened that we can prove happened, and they can't call us a conspiracy theorist. So when I do these shows, I'm always bouncing back and forth between current events, back to the Bible, back to historical things, and tying them together. And what that allows me to do is what God told me he would do. He says, this method that you will use will allow you to take the complex and make it simple, so that you can see things from a 60,000 foot view that others can't see. And that will give you the ability to make the complex simple, so that you can open the eyes of the people and the truth will set them free. So now, what else did he do to prepare me? Well, he said, you're going to change jobs every 3 years. Whoa. All right. Anyway, that's kind of what happened. So I'm still in college and I'm working in the suburbs building skyscrapers. Every job I ever had was strategically appointed by God. I'm there and I'm working on a Friday afternoon with something called thermite. We're doing something called CAD welding. We're welding big steel rods 2 inches in diameter together. And I come back in on a Monday, and anyway, I understand what thermite does. And now I jump forward to 9/11 and I see the towers, and they come down and they say, oh, those airplanes caused that to happen. No, folks, they didn't. That the fuel from a jet airplane burns at a lower temperature than the stove that you have, because that's gas infused with air. So they did not melt. They did not melt the beams in that tower. It was brought down by controlled demolition. So that was the first time that one of my jobs actually came forward and we saw it become history. And then I was working for Monsanto Chemical Company while I was still in college. Why did God have me work there? So I can learn about GMOs early on, because that was going to be a weapon that they were going to use against us. Now I get out of college, and where do I go to work for? I get a job I should never have had. I had an ensuing job in between, but now I've got a resume that's pretty powerful. I'm pretty much a proven salesman, and God says it's time for you to change jobs. And he tells me where I'm supposed to work. And I said, God, I'm not qualified for that. He says, don't worry about it. You'll get the job. So I applied for a job with Atomic Energy of Canada selling linear accelerators. I had a degree in speech and psychology. I was going to be a school teacher. So anyway, I go into this interview and I said, don't give the headhunter my resume. I'll give it to him when I arrive. So I handed it to him, and they looked at me, and about a minute later they said, oh, Mr. Ballard, you're not qualified. And they were going to dismiss me. And I said, nope. I remained seated while I'm looking up at them, and they're standing there. And I said, look, guys, you don't have another interview for at least an hour. Give me 5 minutes. And in 5 minutes, if I haven't convinced you that you should talk to me, then I'll get up and leave. So I'm sitting there and they're standing there. Finally, they sat down, and I looked at them and I said, look, guys, I did my research. I always do my research. You fired a double electronics engineer and you fired a PhD physicist, and yet you're out looking for another double electronics engineer and another physicist. Look at my resume. You need a salesman. I can learn the technology, but a salesman has a certain personality. These people who are scientific, whatever, they don't have it. So guess what? 2 months passed. I guess I interviewed every double electronic engineer and PhD physicist they could find, and they finally offered me the job. And now I'm working for Atomic Energy Canada out of Ottawa, and two things happen. I now understand the dangers of nuclear energy. And that was going to become important as we go forward. But then also I was part of their healthcare system, which was socialized medicine. And so when Clinton started to come out, the Clintons came out and started to push socialized medicine. I had seen people who had died from cancer because they waited 6 months and never got in to see a doctor. So I knew the dangers of socialized medicine. Then he had me apply for a job in France, and I'm working for a firm in France, and I'm going over to Paris. And what am I seeing? Something else very important. He said, every job you have, every place you go is going to be strategically significant to the message I'm going to have you release. So I'm over there, and what am I seeing? I'm seeing the formation of the European Union. I'm seeing the formation of the government in Brussels, and I'm studying my Bible, and I'm understanding that, oh my goodness gracious, I'm seeing the beast system forming that's in Daniel, where we have the lion, which is England. We have the bear, which is Russia. We have the leopard, which is Germany. We have the beast, which, is the devil. And we have the lady riding on the back of the beast, which is the Catholic Church. So basically I'm sitting there and I said, oh God, I see it. God says, you want to know more? And I said, of course I do. So he said, go to the UN. And so I go to the UN, and what do I find? I find something that's there that you can go and check on yourself. It says the UN, the global one world government, wants to set up a 10-nation trading bloc. And what's that? Well, that's the beast system. So now I see the circle is completing, and now I just go back to the Bible, go to book of Revelations, and I go to the book of Revelations, and what do I find? I find something that says, I think it's Revelation 13, and it says, there shall be a time when there shall be 10 kings on whose heads crowns shall set, but for 1 hour with the Antichrist. So all of a sudden, everything that's unfolding now, today, is revealed to me years and decades earlier. So I know what to look for. I know the geopolitical alignments that are going to be coming, that are going to bring the world into the crisis that we're in. And then now let's change gears. That's kind of all of the really, really important jobs. And well, I guess there is a couple of more. I worked in real estate, and I also continued working in construction in the background. I generated 3 houses of my own. I rehabbed a number of houses that I basically had as rentals. So I understood the construction background. And then I had my own small real estate firm. And then, whoops, along comes what? The '08 housing collapse. And I understood exactly what they did. I understood how that was another attempt to collapse us. So let's go back to 9/11. 9/11, the genesis of bringing a nation to its knees starts with wars. So basically, where did America begin its journey? In the Revolutionary War. And we won that war, or so we thought. But here's what happened. Basically, we went bankrupt, and we fought the war because we did not want to go under a central bank from England and be controlled by their central banking system, because a nation that does not have its own sovereign currency is not sovereign at all. But yet, before Washington was out of office, bam, we're bankrupt. And we're under the first central bank of the United States. That's a process that's followed us all along until where are we now? As we do these next two shows over the next few days, you're going to see that we're about to have a financial reset. And basically, what Donald Trump has been trying to tell us, if you listen, is I'm creating a set of circumstances that is going to do what? It's going to set you free. Well, how's it going to set you free? It's going to take us from an internal revenue service, translated as the federal central bank of the world, that does what? That enslaves you. And how does it enslave you? Because every single solitary dollar that's printed, fiat currency backed by nothing except a computer entry with a decimal point on it, is basically the slavery system. Because here's how it works. Every dollar they print turns into a bond. That bond is a debt obligation that says we've got to pay them interest for printing a worthless currency that might as well be wallpaper. The only value is the trust that we have in it. And so we can never have a debt ceiling. We can never get out of debt, because every single dollar that we print, and where's the sources that drive us into that system and in the beginning, it's the war. They bring us into wars. Every nation in the world, collapse them and bring us under a central banking system. And then they're in their debt trap. And then every dollar that is printed basically drives us up and up and up until we get to the point that the US, Britain, Europe, Asia, all the nations of the world now, since COVID, have printed so much money that they can no longer pay the interest payments on that fiat debt system. And so now we're in a system where it's going to collapse, and we're going to have a reset. So that's going to be some of the shows that you're going to see that I'm going to put out in the next week or so. Basically, we're at a point, a tipping point in history, and that's exactly when God said he would send me out. So if I can turn my head so you can see my temple on both sides, he said, you'll know when you're supposed to go out, because the world will be in more peril than it's ever been. Well, what's it look like right now? Kim Clement said we would have a summer of chaos. I just turned on the news last couple of days and listened, and Trump's sending that message just saying, get ready. We may be going into World War III. He contacted Japan. He contacted Australia. And then what else has happened? We hear that, oh my goodness gracious, this isn't official yet, but I've got some pretty good sources saying that China has just confiscated the gold from their people. They allow them to have 50 grams. Well, we'll go in another episode and I'll tell you why that's so significant. So things are happening. So he told me, I will give you your own show. I'll bring you out. You will open the eyes of the people right at the pinnacle moment when things are so frightening. Well, it looks like we might be going into World War III. Don't worry about it. That's not what God's planned. It looks like we're going to have a financial reset. That's a good thing. So basically, God is just taking us all over. Now, let me take you, and I'm jumping around a little bit, but let me go to some of my travels. Now, I've told you where I worked, and I've told you the things that I had to study. So there's one other place I really want to make sure that I talk about. I went to China. I had a patent, and I wanted to get some tool and die making done. And I'm one of those people that had a rare opportunity to see in a sweatshop as they were beginning to build up their manufacturing capability. And I was there 2 days before Tiananmen Square, in Tiananmen Square. And I was circled by a unbelievable number of young students. They didn't have guns. They didn't have signs. They were just there, and they were just asking for freedom. And they were asking, what's it feel like to be an American? What's it feel like to know what freedom is? And I left and I went to the Great Wall, and that's where I was a few days later when they massacred those kids. And so that gave me an unction to really, really study China. the rise of China, and now the imminent fall of China. And now as we go forward, we're looking at a whole geopolitical shift in power. And so God has said to me, you have to be on the forefront of understanding the geopolitical shift. It all relates to this financial set for how power is going to shift from the Western hegemony nations, the United States, and all the European nations, and everything is going to look different, but it's going to set the people free because it's going to get us out of the central banking system. So I go back to what I said before. Basically, God said, I'm going to give you the message that's going to open the people's eyes. And we're on that moment, folks. And my hair is salt and pepper. It's the moment God said he would release me. He said, think of yourself as being in a relay race and you get that final baton. And when we go out, basically, I got 56 years of research all compiled. I've got 50 or more shows that I've done over the last year and a half that I can doctor up and bring out, and I can lay information on you, just bam, 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 and walk you through what's coming. And hopefully what that's going to do is give you understanding, first of all, and a sense of peace because we know what the outcome is. It gets a little rocky, it gets a little scary, but this is all orchestrated by God to do what? To set the captives free. And then once he does that, what's it supposed to do? It's orchestrated to basically parallel the Exodus, where we not just have one nation be freed, but the entire world be freed. And so that's what's coming with this financial reset, and with everything that's happening. Everything that can be shaken has to be shaken down to the foundation so that we can start over again, folks. That's where we're at. That's what this is all about. So I think I've given you enough of an introduction. I'm going to sign off. And if you'll come back again, we're going to be doing detailed shows. Sometimes I do a show like this with no slides, but God told me what I am as a teacher. So what you're going to see when you come back is you're going to see most of my shows basically use slides because I can drill deep, deep, deep down into things. I'm very analytical. God's given me the ability to have an almost photographic memory, and I can reach back over that 56-year period and draw things together that few people can draw. So I invite you. This book that you just saw come up on the screen is my first book. It's Liberty Crusade, to Fight to Save the Free World. Here's why you need to buy it. We're at a tipping point, and I want to punctuate this as I close. We're talked about as a democracy all the time. Folks, we were not a nation that was created as a democracy. Democracy by our founders was called mobocracy because they said that the minute those least willing or least able to work understood that they could get money from the public treasury, that they basically, it was just a matter of time till the nation collapsed financially and we were lost. Our government was lost. We were established as a republic. And I need you to understand what that is. And it's in this book. It's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And a republic, we were called the grand experiment. It has some criteria. It cannot work if the people are not in unison. And right now they've done everything they can do to divide us. So it takes an educated people so that we could read the Bible and we could read other important documents. And the pamphleteers came out and put pamphlets all over so that we could be informed of what was going on. There were no internet at the time, and we have to have social responsibility. So we had to say, we will put the best interest of the nation first. So when we go to vote, we won't vote because somebody is going to give us a handout, which is what often happens today, but because we're voting for what's in the best interest of the nation. And we understood that we have a stewardship responsibility to all of our neighbors. And so that's what we're looking. We're fighting to restore our republic. So what this book tells you is what made America great, why we're under a covenant, the historical tipping points that we have faced and gone through. It tells you how we lost that republic and how we are a democracy, now a mobocracy, which is basically a form of communism. And it tells you how we're about to get our freedom back, and it tells you how we're going to keep it. So here's why this is important. We need to stand up and take the global financial system down. Donald Trump cannot do it by himself. He's got an army of people behind him that are orchestrating things, and that's great, but he needs the voice of the people. We need to stand in unison. There's a reason that Kim Clement said Donald Trump would be president for 2 terms, but there'd be an intermission in between. That intermission was intended by God from the foundation of time, because that was when he was going to give us everything we needed to know, drip, 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 to open our eyes so we would not stand divided, but stand united. And I'll give you one last thing as I close. If we look at how we got our freedom, it was through a war, and it cost us to go bankrupt. India, another one of the colonies of the global financial elite, got their freedom in a very different way. They rallied about a man, Gandhi, who was a lawyer and a very, very strong believer. And he just sat on his ground, crossed his legs, and refused to eat, and told the people what to do. And they said, do not buy goods from China. Does it sound like what Trump is saying? And they rallied around him, and we're not from China, from England. And pretty soon England came back and said, you can have your freedom. We need to do the same thing. Donald Trump is saying, build America, buy America. So we need to take a little bit of pain, and even if we have to spend a little more money, we need to buy American-made goods, and we need to be informed and stand up so they can no longer control us and feed us the lies. So if you'll come, and you'll come to this channel and you'll follow us, you will find out everything you need to know about how we get our freedom back and how we keep it, and how this is the most exciting time the world has ever seen. So with that, folks, I ask you to push that subscribe button and join us on Liberty Crusade Official. Till next time.